Greetings and salutations, our good friends. This is the Irish Coffee and Donuts podcast. Sitting here, we're actually trying to get an early jump start on it. Saturday night, October 20th at 9:37 p.m. Coming off a stellar, I would call it a well-refined, well-oiled, flawless performance against the BYU Cougars. A 17-14 throttling of the Cougs.
Blowout. I'm surprised they didn't call it
just an absolute blowout in the second half. We outscored them 10-0. I don't know. I guess that's a positive. They didn't score in the second half. Whatever we did at halftime was at least some kind of adjustment, I suppose.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I would call it a. I know you don't like swear. We don't swear a whole lot. It was a shit fest.
yeah. Well, it all depends on how you're looking at it. I think that Kelly's little post-game interview is probably the way to take this one, which is. And I said it with the guys I was watching the game with.
Yeah, thanks for calling me.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody that needs to, hey, I need a break from you every once in a while. Look, anybody that has delusions of sugar plums and national championships at this point, I'm not saying that's out of the question. What I will say is that this team is not going to steamroll its way through this schedule, and that's starting to become more than evident. A win is a win. I've always believed that. I think it's a great time to feel that way. But the quarterback situation alone tells you that this team is not top down throughout the entire roster, capable of just marching through this schedule and burning villages to the ground.
Well,
we've seen that, right?
Yeah, and that
some of them are going to have to get ugly, and this one got a little ugly.
Well, and that begs a bigger question. This is a little more macro than just tonight's game, but something that, I've said in the past, which is I can't fathom. I mean, how is it possible that Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame, is unable to have a legitimate 5-star, 4-star, any star, like a solid starter since Clausen. But Clausen was almost an anomaly in there. Quinn wasn't highly recruited. Quinn was all right. But it just blows my mind. We are not, USC, it was Palmer, Leinart, Sanchez. Barkley. God, these guys just insert top-notch players one after another, and it just blows my freaking mind that Notre Dame is unable to do that. I was thinking about something. I was talking to Eifert's old man, I don't know, last year, and I was making some jokes about the highlight reels we were putting together, right? I said, I think Tyler Eifert has caught passes now from 5 different... Eifert's only played 3 years. I think he's caught passes from 5 different quarterbacks. Christ, Nate Montana, Golson, Tommy Rees, and Andrew Hendricks. 5!
Right. And it's not even that, that's shocking in and of itself, but the more shocking thing is that two of those guys played today, and you're automatically thinking, oh yeah, Golson and Rees. No, it wasn't. It was Rees and Hendricks. So I don't know what was going on with Hendricks going in that game today, even for a little look. You know what? The play itself was fine, but I was kind of hoping that maybe Tommy Rees's chin strap was broken and they just needed somebody to go in there and just manage it. I really hope that wasn't we need to show this look for Oklahoma or whatever.
How many plays? Apparently Hendricks had more than one play. I thought he only came in for that run. It says he's 1 for 1 for 2 yards. He was throwing 100% completion, but
no, he threw a pass to the left side to a tight end. So I think he had 2 plays.
So he had a 2. It must be to Nicholas. So Nicholas had 1 reception for 2 yards from Hendricks, and then Hendricks had a 14-yard run, which was a nice run. It was a good play.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, 7 for 16 for Rees. What's that? A 40?
Well, it's not 50%.
No,
so
it's not 43% completion.
Right.
It just blows your mind.
Yeah, and
I don't get it. The offense is now it hasn't cost us a game yet, but this offense is a concern. Doug Gottlieb put on Twitter, if you think Notre Dame is the 5th best team in the nation, then you don't know something about the nation. And it's look, they're probably a top 3 defense, but they're not the best team, quote unquote, team at this point because they only play one side of the ball. I don't know how the hell we keep getting it done on the offense and scoring more points. I mean, the defense stops it. We score enough to win. Very unlike Charlie Weiss, which is score 40 and give up 37. This is the anti-Weiss scenario, but it just I can't wrap my mind around.
Right, but again, we have to step back a little bit. Now, last week we were very quick to shrug off in last week's podcast. Oh, this is nothing like 2002, where we were leaning so heavily on the defense. But I think that the story...
Well, we are, but we said it was fluke. It was fluke in that our defense was outscoring.
And had been scoring, exactly. But let's actually take a look at what happened today. Notre Dame put up 270 rushing yards. I mean, they had a lot of rushing yards, but I think what maybe Gottlieb is talking about and what a lot of people are seeing is how long can you be an elite team with the quarterback situation? It's the same song and dance, but the bottom line is we have guys that can run the ball. Theo Riddick, beast mode. We can get into that in a minute, but the bottom line is, look, there's nothing wrong with being a great team that's built solely on one side of the ball. Now, but what happens is, after a while, you get exposed, and Notre Dame's starting to flirt with that. I tweeted just now about West Virginia. You know what? The bloom is off that rose in the past 4 weeks, and they're still getting trounced as we speak. That game's still happening.
Currently 52-7.
They've given up over 200 points in the past 4 weeks. And that's not a team that should be ranked 13th in the country.
It's 52-7. They're forcing a punt from,
They're 13th in the country, and they've given up 200 plus points in a matter of 4 weeks. That's not a team that deserves to be number 13 in the country. Does Notre Dame? Look at their schedule. They've won 7 games. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff brewing under the surface. Namely, we can't move the ball. But before we completely indict the offense, 270 rushing yards, 389 total yards, and 2 missed field goals that should have been made.
Well, fine, whatever. You know, then it was 14-13.5 instead of 14-7. I know what you're saying, but the truth is, I know we've said this in podcasts in the past. For all the tempo, spread, hoo-ha, schemey, gadget, frilly stuff that everybody thought Kelly was going to do when he came in,
we're not seeing it.
He took whether this is intentional or not. This is the SEC template, which is run the ball, stop the run. Notre Dame has yet to give up a rushing touchdown this year.
Right.
Notre Dame had they're probably averaging, 250 rushing yards a game? They got to be close to it.
Yeah.
They've had 301.
This is the second time Notre Dame has had 2 rushers go over 100 yards.
And BYU hasn't even given up 100 yards rushing all season. They had 2 guys go for 100 tonight. Now, granted, BYU hasn't played the best competition, but they're not horrible. Hell, I think they played Oklahoma State, right?
Yeah, they gave up 6 or 7 points against Boise. So really, as a 4-4 team, I hold up BYU as being better than some others. I mean, they're just not one of the worst pushover teams in the country. There's no doubt about that.
Well, let's go. So points against BYU was 7th in the nation. Hey, not too bad.
Right.
Not too bad. I don't know. Well, let's while we're on the topic of offense here, I do want to, because you mentioned Riddick, I want to give another shout out to my buddy at Irish Roundtable there on Twitter. He's always good for, hey, throw me some questions for the podcast. And he said, is Theo, in a nutshell, is Theo Riddick human or is he possessed by the devil? Where does this guy come from?
I don't know. To watch somebody take over the game like that, and you know what? There was a lot to be said about Atkinson's touchdown. When he went out there, it was absolutely critical that Atkinson scored that touchdown at the point in the game.
But that's all he did. That's all Atkinson did.
Exactly. But yeah, Riddick, I mean, the handbrake, which I know you like the handbrake, that play was unbelievable.
Go see the bye week special on YouTube.
Yeah,
we broke down the moves.
Right.
Yeah, Atkinson on his touchdown was a juke. That was a juke. That was nice.
Yes.
But Atkinson in the past, he was averaging 9.1 yards a carry. We said, how do you get this guy to play? The thing is, they were forcing it. In the first half, they were forcing it to Atkinson. I didn't like the plays they were running. These goofy where he's sweeping across from left to right, hand it off, fake the fullback dive and give it, it was contrived and it didn't work. Now, miraculously, while Atkinson's, averaging 9.1 yards a carry, Riddick comes out of nowhere. Riddick averaged 9.5 yards tonight.
Well,
Unreal.
even the actual yardage is almost irrelevant because the moments in which Riddick...
Career high, and his 2 longest runs of his career were tonight.
This game was all about the fact that the moments in which he either got first downs or got the yardage that he needed. So at that point, when he's breaking it, the yardage is irrelevant. He just needed to get there. But let's go back to what you talked about before. I mean, before everybody freaks out about the offense, I think that what's happening here...
I'm freaking.
I'm freaking. I'm not. And I'm not. Now, going into Oklahoma, yeah, that's not going to work. But overall, I think that the problem here is everybody was expecting the 50, 60 points from Cincinnati. We're still expecting that from Kelly, and he said it himself at the end of the game. With this personnel... my MO has to be slowing the tempo. It's not just running the ball and stopping the run, like you said. There's a third part to that equation, which is slowing the tempo down. We said previously, the team that can run at high tempo will have the most success against Notre Dame. I think this BYU team did better against Notre Dame than anybody this year, and it's because they kept the tempo high and they were passing when Notre Dame was expecting them to run the ball.
And they were, and we said, a couple weeks ago, the formula apparently to beat Notre Dame was score early, get to a lead, and it's going to be hard for them to come behind. Now it was, it was, I guess, a gritty. I don't even know, man. I'm so confused by this. I'm unsatisfied. As a fan, I'm not satisfied, and it almost makes me happy. Kelly said when he got to the locker room, guys didn't seem happy that they won, and he was a little, confounded by that. I think that's good. I think these guys should be a little paid. We came away. Now, in years past, we would have lost the game. Right? Weiss would have lost this game.
Sure.
Yes?
Absolutely.
Right, we agree there. But I'm happy that these guys are pissed because they didn't do what they needed to do tonight, and they know it. And that's fuel going into Oklahoma.
Well, and again, let's go back to what Kelly has done, and he's backing this up in his press conferences. Kelly's mindset right now is a win is a win. It can get as ugly as it has to be. It is. But here's the thing. These guys are not immune to what's going on in the media, nor are the fans. And you know what? When you're the number 5 team all week long in the BCS and you go up against an unranked opponent at home, this felt like a loss because everybody, you know what?
It was a lot like Purdue when Reeves got booed when he came in, and we said people were probably booing just the fact that we were tied, we were down, It was close with Purdue. People are pissed. I could have seen the same thing happen tonight. Which is to say, they didn't get booed, but people are probably just scratching their heads. No,
I think there were boos.
What in the F is going on?
I think there were boos, but a lot of people in the stands probably didn't know that Golson was simply not an option. Most people watching on TV found that out.
How many? Now, this says something about Tommy Reeves, right? Now, is he a game manager? I guess. How many attempts did Notre Dame have passing tonight? 17. How many rushing attempts? 43. That's unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah? So that's what, 60 plays total? 40 out of 60. I mean, that's 80% rushes, whatever the numbers are. And 6.3 yards per rushing attempt for Notre Dame. Phenomenal. And Riddick, I don't know, is it because he's a senior? He don't have any eligibility left, right?
This is it.
I don't know if it's because he's a senior. I don't know if they just tapped him on the shoulder. But it's not just tonight. He's been running hard. And maybe it's because there's 3 guys and throw Cam McDaniel and 4 guys. He knows he's got to do that to get the touches. I don't know.
No, I think that all goes back to what we talked about previously. There's a stable of running backs.
West Virginia scored. It's 52-14.
Well, let them stay ranked in the AP then. Now that they've scored a touchdown. It goes back to saying that we have a stable of running backs, and those guys are going to fight for the carries and fight for getting the rock. And Riddick is making the best case right now. Wood, as Mayock says, Wood is a patient runner. He looks very talented. He looks NFL ready.
He looks NFL
ready, but you know what?
If he's gone after this year to the NFL, I'm not surprised.
But it's kind of like watching Michael Floyd and Golden Tate last year. Floyd looked awfully NFL ready, but you know what? When the ball got up and you needed somebody to just go get it, I wanted it to go to Golden Tate. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I agree. Yeah. Now, Eifert had 4 receptions. I mean, we only caught 8 passes, so it wasn't. We completed, again, less than 50%, but out of 17 attempts, a third of them were it was probably all Eifert in the first first quarter.
Well, and I think what you're seeing again is this big word that starts with an M, which is management, and this is not when everybody's starting to get hype. And Notre Dame's ranked number 5 in the country, and we want to see the fans want blood. They want to see some blood, and Kelly's managing the game. I think 17 pass attempts given to Reese in this kind of game shows you that he is managing. The leash is very short, and he has these running backs to lean on. And you know what? Kelly's like, I can do the 3 yards in a cloud of dust thing and get out of here with a 3-point win. He said it himself. The fans are probably going crazy about the score. The score.
Yeah, he did. No, you're right.
And he's right. He's totally right. I think he's very in tune with what's going on. But you know what? Let's just deal with the elephant in the room. This all becomes very moot, I think, next week against Oklahoma. Because we're going to find out. Can you slow down and manage a game at Oklahoma with running and tempo?
I'm happy that this game is in Norman and not in South Bend. I'm happy that this game is at night. I don't know if you saw that. Game Day is going to be there again next week.
Yeah.
So hey, not too bad for an irrelevant team. For whatever reason it is, we haven't looked good in South Bend in a long time.
Right.
Since maybe like we crushed Utah last year. I can't even.
I'll call it what it is. Kelly graciously, I think, said that this is because the players think it's the Basilica and they're in awe. No, I think it's the flat out fact that, as we talked about last week, I believe in the podcast, the games move slowly and that is not a raucous crowd. It's not. When you hear the commentators left and right saying this crowd's dead, it's like a ghost town in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's their job to keep Notre Dame engaged.
If Tom Hammond says something is dead, you know.
Right,
it's
exactly.
Like, that's a danger. Hey, I didn't know dead people could smoke.
Yeah, exactly. When Hammond gets to the point where he's noticing how calm it is around there, because he's not really an excitable guy. I totally agree, and that's anybody that's been to a Notre Dame game hopefully can agree there. You know what? Get out to some other college stadiums. That place is very hard. It has to be a big deal. It has to be a big game. And Notre Dame fans are intelligent enough to know that when they start stinking it up against BYU, you better do something on your own to win the game because the crowd's really not going to help you.
Brinza, an anomaly? What the hell's going on?
I think so. You know, I saw the other guy missed one as well. I don't know what kind of wind situation was going on there. But the bottom line is that he's not good enough to say he was like a David Ruffer, you know, where he's just an automatic lock. You know, that's just the case. I think that's the case in college. These kickers are not as polished as the NFL. You just can't rely on field goals, which was scarily they were doing today. You can't rely on the field goals to win the game. I mean, but there's no excuse for one being a chip shot.
But the management style of game, the type of game that we're playing, you need them. Yeah, you need them. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, you got to convert those things. So I don't know, man. Theo now, well, this doesn't look like it's been updated here, but he's definitely the leading rusher still. I don't know. We'll see. Well, let's another thing here. A buddy at Twitter threw out to me. The second question is, who's the most underrated person on this team right now?
I don't know if I'm going to go with underrated, but I can't say enough about T.J. Jones. I think if there's a most improved player, it's got to go to him. You know what I mean?
I think Danny Spond, granted he had a good game tonight, but he has really come alive. Mm-hmm. He's good. He's just a solid player for as much as attention as Ishak got at the beginning. Yeah. Spond has really come along. I'm very impressed with his style of play.
Yeah, and I've also been really impressed with Kavari Russell. I mean, maybe that's just me. Like, he has been out of position, but if you look at what's being tasked of him and his age and his experience level, that was a gaping hole that I think a lot of people were expecting to be exploited left and right this year. Like, something Notre Dame wouldn't be able to stop was people throwing at him. Well, and I don't think that's happened.
We'll
great.
Find out against USC, and we'll find out against Oklahoma. I mean, I saw USC just lighten up the scoreboard with some deep balls. So we'll see how it is. I don't know. It's hard for me to even talk about this game because I'm just baffled by it. I was irate, I guess, in the first half. I was just confused. What the hell's going on? Now, I will say this: in years past, you probably feel like, oh, here we go again, we're going to choke. This year, you're like, well, probably. I never got to the point where I didn't think we were going to win the game, but I was confused, and I'm thinking, they're going to put Golson in. He's going to have to put, I was like, Kelly's an idiot for saying that Golson ain't going to play today, because he's going to have to play him. They didn't. Do you think Golson is hurt more than what they led on to? Why?
In my opinion, in this game, what you saw happening, and you know what? Maybe fans were hitting the panic button a little bit before Brian Kelly was, but there was a point there where they were down in the first half and staring down the barrel of kicking it off to start the second half to BYU. Without seeing Golson, period, even just to shake things up, even for a spark, even to prepare him for Oklahoma or create looks, there is no way that he does not see the field in this game unless he is physically unable to do so. I just believe that. And Kelly made it sound like, well, just holding him back a little bit, letting him let things soak in. And I just can't believe that. But you know what? A lot of this quarterback stuff is really making me go crazy and question, how well we know Brian Kelly. But I see no way that he does not get on the field in this game. We've said it before. Look, Tommy Reese was able to go out there and not lose. Yeah. Like, not lose this game. It was not cold-blooded Tommy the closer. And again, that's not what we saw.
I think that's what the feeling was for Purdue. I think that's what the feeling was tonight. And I think that's what's so confusing to fans and everybody else, which is we didn't win tonight. We just didn't lose.
Yeah. Right. But again, we've heard a lot of baseball analogies, and everybody's kind of playing that up with these quarterbacks. And this is true. Like, there's a reason why a closing pitcher is not a starting pitcher. He doesn't have the stamina. He doesn't have the stuff.
Well,
but there's a guy that can come in and throw fastballs and close out the game. And we found out that Tommy Reese cannot play end-to-end and be a quarterback that can really lead the team.
Because he locks on to Eifert. I mean, I tweeted out.
He locks on to whoever's the number one option.
That's what it is.
And his balls are slow. His balls are slow.
Pittsburgh last year, we were down. They went like Reese went 8 for 8 in the final drive or whatever the stat was, but Eifert was like 5 for 5, had probably 3/4 of the yardage in the game-winning drive. Eifert scored the touchdown, and Eifert caught the 2-point conversion. It was just like, all you do is throw to this guy,
right,
and everybody
exactly.
knows, and he's better than everybody else, and he can get away with it. That's fine, but that's what it was. And I'm sitting here thinking, God, if they shut Eifert down, what else are we going to do?
Yeah, well, not only Eifert, but I'm going to be a real jerk here, but the reality is, if you start going back at these cold-blooded drives that everybody's talked about with Tommy Reese, he has been flat-out bailed out by the receivers. John Goodman had one where he was bailed out. Toma has bailed him out when he had to come in, and like you said, Eifert has absolutely bailed him out. So Reese chucking the ball up and having guys make possession-type Wes Welker catches really doesn't make Tommy this cold-blooded option.
No.
So
Eric Gagne was like barely over 500 as a starter. The guy had 84 consecutive saves or something like that when the Cy Young. Granted, he was on the juice, but hey, Wild Thing Came in, he got it done. Reese is great as a closer. I hate to, it irks me that Golson isn't the guy that can finish it off yet. But hey, so be it. It is what it is.
Right.
I don't know.
But what we saw, the bottom line is what we saw this week was Kelly broke from the MO, which was Golson goes out there and provides some escape options. He can make throws. He can go over the top. So he can keep the defense having to at least account for every aspect of the game as you go through it. You have to account for the run or the scramble. You have to account for the deep ball. When Reese gets in there, you have to cover the obvious option and you put pressure on him. And you know what? That type of thing works on that final drive. But I think what we saw is this MO does not work without Golson, which was really surprising.
Yeah.
This team does not work without him.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts on this BYU game here? Let's wrap up this before we move on to Oklahoma.
No, I hope and pray that BYU is a better team. I watched a little bit of the Michigan State game briefly. I feel like BYU is better than Michigan State. I feel like BYU
State sucks.
is probably better than Purdue. But you know what? That's something you say when you want to feel better about an ugly game is to pump up the opponent. So
I don't know. I'm so confused. I'm happy we won. We're still undefeated. I didn't want to lose the game. I thought Golson would just come in because Kelly's just shown this tendency at times to just go to the a quick switch. As like, hey, maybe this will work. I don't know. They maintain core standard rudder. They plugged away. It's impressive that they shut BYU out in the second half. I'll say that.
Yeah.
They ran the ball well. Rushing yards. BYU had 66 total rushing yards. I mean, good lord. And it wasn't for lack of attempts. Well, they had 25 attempts, but 2.6 yards a rush. Nothing great. This to me is confusing.
Well, let's at least go for a silver lining, which is Notre Dame is not in a position where they have to climb the rankings ladder at this point. If Notre Dame was ranked 20th and had one loss, this game would feel really bad because it's not going to help you.
But I wouldn't be surprised to see a one-loss LSU team jump Notre. Now they probably won't in the BCS because they got a loss, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a one-loss LSU team jump Notre Dame in the AP poll.
Yeah, and again, we're not entirely sure that shouldn't happen, but the bottom line is what Notre Dame does against Oklahoma and USC is going to determine where they fall at the end of the season. But the bottom line, like you said, all you got to do is win one. You're at the top, and it's all about just keeping everybody else from climbing on the pedestal. This is king of the mountain. You don't have to expend a lot of energy getting to the top. You just have to hold your position, and it feels a little ugly, and it's nerve-wracking when they're down. But the bottom line is the run game has the ability to bail them out. And this game didn't, for all that the crap that happened out there, it never really felt like a panic situation, and the reason for that is this is a running team. And when you're with Charlie Weiss, it's panic time because you have to rely on throws, and this team does not. When you got two guys running the ball well over 100 yards in the same game, you can march down the field, and you can get back into it, and you can manage it. So I think that was key.
Well, enough about this crap poll. Let's move on to Oklahoma. All right, so on to Joklahoma, ranked number 9 right now. They're putting a massive beat down on Kansas. It's in the fourth quarter. They're currently up 52-6. Scored 63 on Texas. Scored 41 on Texas Tech. Scored 19 against Kansas State in a loss. Put 69 up on Florida A&M. 24 on UTEP in the first game of the year. They're probably averaging what's that come out to?
Yeah,
45 points a game.
Yeah, you see the overall right here, 43.2, and that's 8th in the country. So when you look around at some of the teams that, obviously college football with 120 teams, some of them build, they build their entire fortunes around trying to score points. So anybody that's in the top 10 scoring points is pretty frightening as an opponent. We know that much.
West Virginia was too, but they don't scare me. So,
Well, something tells me that Oklahoma probably gives up less points, as we mentioned earlier, than West Virginia has thus far. But let's talk about what we're going to see with Oklahoma. I mean, the obvious stands out. You're going to see Landry Jones throwing the ball a lot, and you're going to see them he averages about 300 yards a game passing, and they average about 100 yards a game rushing, or more, depending on how things are rolling for them.
Did you see any of that game against Texas?
No.
They ran all over Texas. I mean, you thought Riddick was banging against guys tonight. Right. They were wrecking people. I mean, they're well-rounded on offense. I don't know a ton about their defense, but points against, they're ranked 19th in the nation, so they're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. They gave up a garbage touchdown to Kansas. Now, granted, Kansas is 1-5. While we're on the topic of Kansas, you look at Notre Dame, they're 7-0 this year. Florida now is 7-0, 6-0. They're undefeated. They're both top 5 teams. If I'm Gene Chizik or Joker Phillips or any of these guys that are probably going to get fired this year, what I would do is just sit out, wait for a couple of years for Charlie Weiss to get fired at Kansas and come in, because clearly the guy can recruit.
Once he leaves somewhere, the Patriots are looking good this year too. So I'm just saying, once the guy leaves, that seems to be kind of the formula for getting things to get up and running there. But yeah, I mean, if you take a look at the Kansas State game, the Kansas State being the only team that beat Oklahoma, not their game today, but it's kind of bizarre. Oklahoma outgains Kansas State in that game, and they also turn the ball over a lot. So it's kind of a weird game in that you're not going to slow them down to the point where they're not going to gain a ton of yards. We know that.
Well, let's look specifically at Kansas. Now, Kansas State's a good team. Notre Dame's a good team, right? So let's look specifically at this game. In the game that Oklahoma lost to Kansas State, they had 88 rushing yards. Yeah, they had 3 turnovers. Okay, now passing yards, yeah, you're right. They had 300 passing yards, so what's and they only scored 19 points. So what is the formula based on just purely statistics and what you can see from this Kansas State score? What is the formula to beat Oklahoma? It appears that you need to hold them under 100 yards rushing. We'll call it under 200, whatever it is. Hold them down on rushing. Force turnovers.
Yeah.
Keep them under 20 points, and you win the game. Is that it?
Yeah, exactly. And if you watch the highlights of this game, Kansas State also had a defensive touchdown, which was very similar to Golson's. Landry Jones fumbles the ball basically in the end zone, and Kansas State jumps on it and gets a score. So, I don't think Notre Dame's going to win this game without getting a defensive score or maybe a special team score. Well, they're going to need a little bit of magic. But the bottom line is, with how much, and I know you're talking about them being balanced, but a lot of what you're seeing is Oklahoma blowing the game out against Texas, and then you get the luxury of running the ball.
And then run the ball at the end.
So what you need to do is, when they start out, their MO is going to be to throw the ball, and you got to get lucky, because if Jones does have a fault as such a high-profile QB, he will throw some interceptions, and they're going to have to force interceptions with coverage, or we got to see more aggressive blitzing, I think, from Diaco. At that point, maybe you're exposing yourself, and you're exposing that soft core that we've seen of the ND defense. But I don't see Notre Dame dropping back into coverage and surviving this game. You've got to pressure this guy. It's time to put the chips on the table and start blitzing, I think.
Well, one thing I do remember, earlier in the year, and I don't know if it was training camp or early on the season, Oklahoma lost a couple key offensive linemen. So I would say that our defensive line / front seven is probably better than anybody they face this year. I don't know, is Kansas State's D-line great or is Texas's D-line great? I don't know, but I feel like ours is pretty freaking good. So let's say that it's going to be one on the defensive line. I mean, is that fair to say? Hell, Kansas State only scored 24 points to beat them.
Right. No, that's totally fair to say. And the bottom line is, it kind of goes back to what we talked about before. You won't stop this team. I don't expect that you're going to go to Norman, Oklahoma, and hold Oklahoma to 10 points or 17 points. I mean, we've seen BYU score that many points. We've seen Purdue score that many points. Oklahoma is going to score, and that's a whole other can of worms from Notre Dame. They got to get the ability on offense to score the ball.
They got to score.
But what they can't
if they don't score, they're screwed.
Exactly. But what they cannot do is let Oklahoma do what USC used to do to Notre Dame, which was score on every possession and then try to shoot them out with passing. Because as we talked about previously, neither Golson nor Reese is going to be able to pass at the level that Jones will and have a firefight.
But this was a close game. First quarter, Oklahoma's up 3-0. Second quarter, Kansas State's up 7-3. Then they're up 10-3. Then they're up 10-6. Oklahoma gets a field goal before halftime. They're up 10-13. So Kansas State trails in the third quarter. They score a touchdown. They're at 17-13. They score another one. They're up 24-13. They give up 6 points and a failed 2-point conversion with 4 minutes to go in the game, and there you go. So can we stop the rushing? Which I got a lot of confidence in our D-line. Can we stop the run? Can we get some pressure on Jones? Jones throws. He's thrown some picks.
He has thrown picks. Yeah.
And they have been prone to turn the ball over. We get 1 or 2 turnovers, getting our head a little bit. Don't necessarily need to get some huge lead, and don't even necessarily need to score a ton of points. I think if we scored 28 points, 28-21, that's doable.
Yeah.
Is that doable? It's doable.
That is the formula, at least. And it's ironic as you talk here. Some of the highlights are playing behind you in the game today.
Look at this punt return.
In the game today, they're showing part of it. Oklahoma has a punt return for a touchdown in this game that's about 98 yards, and they also had a kickoff return for a touchdown of 100 yards.
With a minute to go in the fourth.
So in Kansas is not great, but the bottom line is when you see a team that returns a punt the entire length of the field for a touchdown and also a kick in the same game, that means they have special teams and they have playmaking ability. So you have to stop the big play, and you're going to have to get a little bit lucky. I have no problem.
It was impressive what they did to Texas. At the same time, the next highlight that came on right here is Texas. They did it. They're beating Baylor again. Texas was in a firefight with Baylor here. I don't know. We'll see. Is it going to be a tough game? Yes. Is it our toughest test so far this year? Yes. At Norman, hostile environment, night game, throwing all the distractions of game day. But I like the fact that we're on the road instead of at home in this one. I really do. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like a neutral side or away, we just, for whatever reason, and it's been like that for probably the last 5 years, we play better.
I totally agree. And I think what's very
Unless
important...
it's at the Coliseum.
That's probably true. I think what's going to be very, very important for Brian Kelly in this game is to create an attitude of, hey, screw all the entitlement of being ranked number 5. You are absolutely the underdog in this game, and you will shock the world if you beat this team. But don't go in here thinking you're just going to beat this team, because it's not going to happen that way. Notre Dame needs to go in as the underdog. When you mentioned the Texas game, there's a lot of bad blood in that game. It's a Red River rivalry.
No, you're right.
And here's the other thing. Kansas State was also absolutely trounced the previous year by Oklahoma. So this is a revenge game, and that was part of it for Kansas State. So arriving against Oklahoma State, the exact antithesis of what Notre Dame did today, which is showing up with some attitude, showing up with just getting fired up and having some sort of identity, because these two teams do not have history. There's no conference thing. There's no geographic thing. You can't go back to the ghosts of the past like Miami.
The closest thing is probably Stoops should have been hired instead of Kelly. But the one thing worth noting, Kansas State had 0 turnovers in that game when they won.
Yes.
We cannot turn the ball over. We need to force turnovers. We need to run the ball. We need to stop the run.
Yeah.
Is it as simple as that?
I think it's as simple as that. The only thing I'm going to change is they're going to have to stop the pass. I just think that if Oklahoma is running the ball on you, it's because they're up by 3 touchdowns.
Because we don't have the quick strike capability.
Right.
But if it was Brady Quinn who could put up 40 points, a different story. Smarja, Mosto, and all these guys, they could score fast.
Yeah, and this team's not built that way.
We don't score fast.
But I agree. If you can slow this ball down, and it sounds kind of counterintuitive here because of how successful the defense has been, but the longer the Notre Dame offense is on the field running the ball, the better this situation is going to be for Notre Dame.
No, I agree.
You want to limit their possession. If Oklahoma gets the ball 17 times in this game,
K-State had the time possession. They had the ball 10 minutes more than Oklahoma too.
Exactly.
Is this a game where if they shut down the run, if they get some sacks, if they get some turnovers, is this the type of high-profile game that could really push Manti Te'o into the Heisman conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he's already there. One of the things that we've talked about in the past is the Heisman moment. And the thing that the thing that he needs right now, he needs a moment outside of what he's had to go through emotionally. That's put him on the radar because people see how strong of an individual he is off the field, and that makes a great story. But some of these other guys that are going to be in the front running, make no mistake, they're going to show highlights of Geno Smith throwing 9 touchdowns in one game. And Teo he's basically accumulating tackles, and he's leading the team, but he needs he needs to decapitate somebody.
He's got what, 4 or 5 picks?
He has 4 interceptions, but he needs to take something to the house. Something special has to happen to him in this game.
What about this for a Heisman moment? It's 3rd and goal from the 3-yard line, and you just mentioned a few minutes ago we don't have a bruiser back like Robert Hughes. Teo comes in, fullback dive.
Was he in the victory formation at the end of the game today, by the way? Is he actually I swear he was the tailback at the end of the game when Notre Dame kneeled the ball today. I swear that Teo was the guy back behind the offense.
Like 20 yards back?
Yeah, as they kneeled it down. I swear that was him.
He might have been.
So you're saying put him in and give the guy an offensive touchdown.
Might as well,
over the hump.
The freaking Fridge scored in the Super Bowl, right?
No, I totally agree.
That's a Heisman moment right there.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to go New Orleans Saints and wish ill upon anybody, and I'm certainly not putting a bounty on anybody's head, but I'd love for nothing better than for him to get through somebody on a stunt and just blast Jones, because just to show that that's our best guy and that's your best guy, and just really rock him on a hit. Maybe the ball flies up in the air, and I don't know, KLM comes through and catches it and runs it back.
Shame on it'd be Tuitt, and shame on me for not mentioning Tuitt had 2 sacks tonight. We didn't touch that in the BYU.
Oh, and we had so many hands on that guy too. There should have been 10 sacks in that game, and that guy must have been covered in butter.
Dude, Nick's face mask. I know that's not intentional. You grab for what you can. Dude, he ripped that guy down.
But you know what? Only 3 or 4 plays later, he also had one where he tackled the running back. Basically, he stuck his arm out completely extended, which, if you think about the physics of it, that's not a very strong position to have your arm all the way out, and he flat out stopped the running back at full speed. The he's a strong individual.
All right, well, give me a prediction. We haven't done this yet, but this is a big game. We got to wrap it up here. Do we beat Oklahoma?
I can't. I just don't think it's fair to predict if Notre Dame wins this game or not. I know that's what you're looking for, but I'd rather just stick to the formula. I think that Notre Dame shows up. I think the night aspect of it, do I think? I think on the surface, Oklahoma is a much better team than Notre Dame.
They're a more well-rounded.
They're a playmaking team.
You're right.
Stoops has been doing this for a lot of years.
We're the best defense
in the same place, but this is going to be a different team than what they have seen this year.
We're the best defense they played this year.
I think that, I think they are. I think they are. Maybe not in the secondary, but this is going to be the best team that they play.
They're already 9. They crushed Kansas. It's a top 10 matchup. It's a highlight game. It's game day. It's going to be hype. And this is the coming out party for if Notre Dame is real. And don't get me wrong, if they lose this, they lose a couple games, they're still, if they lose 2 games or less, they're going to go to the BCS.
This season's already in success territory. But you know what? When you get more, you want more.
And this is a defining moment for Brian Kelly, for Teo potentially as a Heisman. This is put it on the line, unzip it, whip them out. Who's bigger? Who wants to come today? Who wants to bring it? This is lay it on the line and let's see what's what. This is the game. This is, so far this year, it's the biggest test. We know what it takes, apparently, to beat this team. Can Riddick, can Atkinson, can Wood show the same level of success against a high profile? I mean, Oklahoma's what? Preseason number 5?
Right.
4? I think 4th.
4, yeah.
So they're no joke. I mean, they're talented. This is going to be the one that that's going to shut the haters up.
Right.
The Gottliebs of the world, all these the Colin Cowherds, all the people that say, "Oh, Notre Dame's they're just lucky. They cheated against Stanford." All these clowns out there. This is the game. This is the one to do it. Everybody's going to be watching it. Can you run the ball? Can you stop the run? Can you force some turnovers?
And what does your speed look like against a team like this? I think that's a huge part of this is answering that age-old question of, can a Midwestern team from the Big Ten or somebody like a Notre Dame, can you match the speed and the athleticism of this team? And I think that's what you're going to see. I'm really partial to the USC 2005 game, not in a positive way, but simply because I was actually at the game. This is going to transcend that as far as being Notre Dame's biggest game. And what I hope is that the result, obviously, is close enough to match that game in historic meaningfulness. But really, if you look back, I'm including everything that Ty Willingham did, and I'm including everything that Charlie Weis did.
You even have to talk about this guy. Do you know?
Because what I'm saying is, this is a 10-year game for Notre Dame. This is the most important thing that's happened to them.
It is.
Probably since in a decade. It's a big deal.
It is. And I just saw the stat out there that Kelly is now this just shows how sad things have been. This is the first time we've had 3 consecutive winning seasons since Lou Holtz.
Yeah. It's a little scary.
Come on.
Right.
Well,
So
that's it. I don't know what else to say. BYU sucked. Oklahoma hopefully is going to be better. We think we got it dialed in. We can't turn the ball over. We got to get some turnovers. Get in Landry Jones's head. He's not infallible. Hold him to reasonable rushing yards.
Bet the under.
You run over 200. I'd say take the under because if you lose, you're going to be pissed anyways that we got smoked by 30 points.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening though. I really feel like Notre Dame keeps this one within a score.
All right.
And they're the real deal.
All right, go Irish. That's it. Thanks.